Communication is extremely important in information technology. We are all working with a very abstract subjects, which do not have a one-to-one representation in the, so to say, real world. And nothing can make that, and that leads to all kinds of misunderstandings and wrong assumptions. And nothing can make communication more clear than visual aid. Our today's speakers, Olina and Ben, are visual agile coaches, and they will share today some very efficient visual tools. Welcome, Olina and Ben. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I want to welcome you all to this Power of Visual workshop. I'm calling it a workshop because we're going to ask you to participate in some drawing, all right? And we will explore visual practices within the Agile domain. But first, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Olina Glindevi. I'm a visual Agile coach. And from my visual introduction, which will be my first tip to you, do one of these. It's really fun. It's an awesome team exercise to get to know each other. And from this, you can see that I'm half Swedish, half Finnish. I'm a mom of two. I love reading, working out, dancing, as well as my job in the Agile domain. And this presentation made it possible for me to convey quite a lot of information in just seconds. And it will be more memorable as well, compared to if I stuck a couple of bullet points on a page, right? So our belief is that as visual Agile coaches, we can help people and organizations to leverage the power of visuals to improve communication, alignment, engagement, and delivery of value, and having a fun work experience. So Ben, who are you?
I need to see my slide, otherwise I'm not quite sure who I am. Or there we go. Mine's not quite as much information on this, but hopefully you can tell. We can probably tell that I'm not a visual Agile coach. I'm someone who's been working in change, and I'm very interested for a number of years in the city of London, and I'm very interested in looking at how we deliver change, how we work together, and the interactions that we have, and whether you call that future ways of working. But it's looking at the environment that we exist in and how we improve those interactions, whether it's through meetings or whether it's within Agile teams or whether it's through the use of visuals to enhance our meetings and how we collaborate. So yeah, I've been working in financial services in London. If I'm not working, then quite often found on my bike or out exercising, or sitting out walking my dog, thinking about riding my bike, or maybe skiing in the mountains behind, or sitting in a coffee shop writing some of the posts that we put out on LinkedIn, and thinking about how we create a better environment for delivering change, but not just change, about better interactions at work generally. So that's me, and I have to admit I didn't put this together. I used a visual Agile coach to help me with creating my visual introduction. Okay, so before we move on further deeper into the presentation, I want to give you guys a insight into a very real example of the power of visuals. So I was working for a large Swedish bank in the UK, and we were running a request for information for an Agile transformation. And one of the providers put this visual in front of us, and they were a small consultancy, and they were up against the likes of Deloitte and KPMG, so the kind of the big guys out there. And this visual encapsulated their approach to the Agile transformation on a page, and in a way that everyone understood it and engaged with it and started to take interest and started to discuss and could see how they fitted into the overall picture. And it took them all the way through to the final round of the Agile transformation RFP. We actually never did an RFP. We never appointed anyone, so I can't say who would have won and whether this would have won it for them. But it's a very good example of how you can use a visual in quite a commercial situation powerfully, and it will take you a long way. So this is drawn by Linda Gervin, who some of you guys may know or see on LinkedIn as an author in the Agile space. Okay, I'm not pressing the slide button, so if there's a pause because we're waiting for Olina. So what we're going to do now, we said it was a workshop, and that means you guys have to do some drawing and sketching. So I'm just going to type into the chat a link to sketch. Does it need? There we go. It probably needs actually the a proper link, doesn't it? But what do we want, Olina? Everyone to go to this website so that they can start drawing.
Exactly. Either you grab a pen and paper and do it really manually, or maybe you have an iPad or you go to the site. And I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I'm thinking that maybe we should use you as a guinea pig, Ben, and see how your drawing skills says. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'll give it a go once I've got one loaded.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you all a word, and I'm giving you like about 2 minutes to draw what comes to mind when I say that word. All right. So let's take a couple of seconds and then grab something. And if you absolutely do not want to draw anything, then please just put an image in your mind instead. Okay. I'm stopping my sharing.
Okay.
I would allow you to.
Yeah, there we go. You got it?
Perfect. So what I want you all to draw on a paper or iPad or this site or in your mind is what comes to mind when I say the word security. I'll give you about a minute, maybe 1.5. Beautiful. All right. Thanks, Ben.
I'm just doing another one now.
All right. Yeah. Perfectly fine. So if you want to share, we would love to see what you've drawn if you did anything. So you could either raise your hand and I'll give you the screen, or maybe you could post a screenshot in the chat. So Ben, you draw a locker and
yeah,
that's a gate.
Yeah, that's a gate. Yeah. So when you said security, I immediately thought of padlock. We got a padlock in the UK with a key, and then I'd put that padlock on the gate.
All right, fantastic. So the main takeaway from this exercise is basically stressing the fact that we all have different ideas of what a word can mean. And that's why we need images and pictures as well to enhance our message, to clarify. All right, back to presentation. I'm sort of assuming that we're all Agile practitioners in one way or another. Maybe you're a coach or a Scrum Master or product owner or so. And therefore, I'm also assuming that we face similar challenges when it comes to Agile ways of working. And the most common ones is resistance to change, is poor communication and collaboration, and lack of understanding and gaps in knowledge. And we all know that the world is fast-paced and ever-changing. Pre-pandemic, we had the challenges of global working across timescales, countries, and cultures, and that remains. And post-pandemic, the world of work involves remote and hybrid working. And whilst technology enables us, it also causes challenges, right, in collaboration, alignment, engagement, etc. So, as a result of this, engagement stats are not looking really great. So this is the average workplace situation. About 20% of all employees are highly motivated. 60% of everyone is somewhat engaged and maybe doing some of that quiet quitting, which seems to be that there's been a lot of talk about recently. And the remaining 20% are the exact opposite of being engaged. They're actually putting up quite some resistance. So we need to do something about this. And my conclusion is that we need to get better at seeing what we're saying. And research shows that one of the most powerful ways to achieve those objectives is to use and leverage the power of visuals. All right. So we're going to talk a bit about visual practices.
Okay, so when I started working with Olina, I wasn't familiar with the term visual communication, visual thinking, or visual learning, which started me to investigate and try and find out more. And I got confused with these terms: visual thinking, visual learning, and visual communication, which all mean something different in their own right. So we created this umbrella term for visual practices, and that is made up of those three pillars. So visual thinking, this is the process of actually thinking in pictures as opposed to words. So some people, if you say the word padlock or lock, will think of the actual image of a padlock. That will come. That's what will conjure to their mind. Others will actually think of the words padlock, padlock. They're not visual thinkers, or not predominantly visual thinkers. Visual learning is where, and we hope this works through our presentation, where we've got a lot of images and lots of pictures. People respond better or more easily to the images and pictures rather than just text. So it enables you to, through visual learning, to grasp concepts and to have longer recall or memory of them. And then the last is what we're trying to do here, visual communication, using images to externalize our internal thoughts or our ideas or our messages or the communication. So when we talk about visual practices, we mean a combination of visual thinking, visual learning, and visual communication. Now, of course, visual practices is nothing new, and is in fact kind of one of these is an evolutionary superpower or super skill that we've forgotten or have allowed words, whether in written or spoken form, to sort of overtake, certainly in that written form, the way we communicate in work. So cave paintings, a very obvious example of visual communication. Egyptian hieroglyphics, that actually shows how the visuals are starting to become more like the alphabet that we're familiar with today, and Viking runes. So humans have been using visual communication since the dawn of times. Now, of course, advertisers know this. So you really could think of any number of logos, whether it be Apple or Nike or Volvo. And when I say those words, it's probably the logo that jumps into your head first, the visual, as opposed to the word or the brand name. So those advertisers are directly tapping into the power of visuals. And of course, I'm pretty sure there's no one on this call who hasn't used emojis today to brighten up their communications, or shortcut or short circuit, or get their message across quickly, or their emotions across more quickly in a visual way, and as opposed to writing out in long formal text. So again, visuals are providing a shortcut and conveying emotions or a message at light speed. Now, good news is for Agile practitioners is that Agile is already a highly visual methodology, and you're already using Kanbans and canvases and burn down charts, and we'll touch upon that later as well. So rather than just put it out there that visuals are powerful and will revolutionize your way of working, we want to back this up with science. And again, there's all manner of different researches and scientific studies that are out there and available on the web that we've sought to kind of summarize here. The one thing you need to know is that when you look into this and you do the research, visuals always win, as opposed to other forms of communication. And this is borne out through psychology, neuroscience, and studies of education and learning, really proving that our brains are visually wired, and sight is our dominant sense, and receives more backing of our brain power and the brain computing power in the form of neurons than any other of our senses. So it makes sense to play to your evolutionary advantages and use visuals. So there's a number of sciences that you may or may not have heard of. So the VAC science, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, talks about different learning styles, visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, and that was a study by Fleming, and 3 different learning types. It suggests that we have a preferred learning style, and that is generally learning through seeing. So VAK. Let me just check. Then we have educational theorist Linda Crager-Silverman. Her research found that, again, 65% of the population were some way visual thinkers, if not pure visual thinkers, because not everyone is. That's a percentage of around 25-30. But when you put that together with people who do both visual, verbal, or auditory, the percentage comes out at 60-65. So that means that there's a good chance that in your audience, you're talking to people who have a strong preference for visual learning. Dual code theory. So I mentioned that earlier, how your brain has 2 pathways, left and right side. So sometimes when you see a visual stimulus, it may be a cup of coffee, that image, that cup of coffee in its real sort of visual form will go down one pathway, I think it's the left side of your brain, and will be locked in and coded, as will the word that you associate with that cup of coffee, which is coffee. That'll be hard coded in your right side of your brain. Then we have picture superiority effect related to dual coding, and again, this is the source of the phrase, which we would all have heard: a picture paints 1,000 words, and it contends that the human brain learns and retains more information in image form than versus words. Now, for every science there's conjecture or there's challenge, but the way I look at it is when you've got to communicate and get your message over, the science backs it up, but give yourself as much chance as possible, play to as many strengths as possible, use visuals to enhance and assist you in your communication, and that means combining both words and visual images. You will have a greater impact. You'll get your message home, and I think you'll all agree Olina's fantastic images here bring some kind of lightness and color and creativity to my words, I would hope. Okay, so moving away from the science, I don't know if anyone's got any questions they want to put in the chat about anything we've covered so far, whether it's the evolutionary side or observations or questions around the science, or we can move on to how to use visual practices, thinking, learning, communication at work.
There was a question in the chat about what are the best tools to create the visuals, like your introduction slide.
Good question. And we'll get to the I can't draw syndrome solutions in a few slides down. So yeah, we'll come to that one. Thank you.
So let's have a look at how we can use visual practices at work. Okay. So as Ben mentioned, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but how? The key to benefiting from visual practices lies in recognizing that it's an active process, not a passive one. So here's how you can get active and work with visual practices. Either you go about on your own, sketching and doodling opens up pathways to simulate thought processes and problem solving. It's unconstrained. You could use visual practices to get thoughts down on paper, generate ideas, reflect, sort, and structure. Or you use it in a group. Maybe next time your team are in the office together, You could huddle around the whiteboard and flip chart would take over a whole wall and collaborate to play around with ideas and experiment and explore scenarios together in a very low cost risk, very low risk, cost efficient way. Or you can do it remotely. You can share a whiteboard, a virtual whiteboard like Miro to innovate and solve problems together, or share important knowledge with each other. You can use pictures to join information from different people and different geographies and different contexts together. So why should you do this? 5 reasons to use visual practices in the workplace. Whether you want to see the big picture or investigate smaller details, maybe you want to do away with jargon and simplify complexity, or inspire a team for a brainstorm session or explore your own thoughts. Visual practices are your new multi-purpose tool for the modern workplace. So why? It improves collaboration. So a visual inspires discussion, and when we talk to each other, we share ideas, obviously, and solve problems together. And the use of visual practices in a team environment encourages engagement and fosters alignment and improves collaboration. And what it does is that it also inspires creativity. So visual practices are active, not passive. Drawing engages the brain as it explores, creates, and problem solves freehand. And when you have externalized your internal thinking, it becomes actionable. And of course, anyone can do it. So visual practices are the evolutionary super skill, as Ben mentioned. Humans have been communicating through pictures since the dawn of time. And no one learned to write before they could draw, right? There's no such thing as the I can't draw syndrome. It also clarifies processes. So a picture is the perfect MVP. A visualization of a process smokes out potential problems. It identifies options, reveals efficiencies, warns out consequences, and knits together relationships, all before money is spent, really. And a picture saves 1,000 words when the process needs explaining. And also, it boosts memory. So text is quite complicated, it's cluttered and imposing, and visuals provide only the essential information, making it easier to lock that information securely into your memory. And it also helps with communication. Words can have dual or multiple meanings, words, right? So visuals and icons speak universal language that is commonly and quickly and widely understood, and helps you deliver a clear and unifying message.
Thanks, Olina. And we'll come back to the processes later. But to answer that question, as if by magic, the I can't draw syndrome, which is something that I'll gladly admit to suffering, and maybe anyone who saw my picture of a padlock earlier will kind of suggest is true. So there are tools. There's multiple tools out there that you can use to help you with your visual communication. There's a platform called Drawify here that Olina's artwork is available on, and this is an example of how you can construct a slide a little bit like PowerPoint clip art, which is a good tool as well to overcome I can't draw syndrome. Grab pictures, art from contributors such as Olina, for example, and create your own slides. Something again that I think you'll probably be familiar with is Miro, and something we'll come on to that later, where we're to show you how we're using both Drawify and Miro to create templates. But again, this isn't quite as beautiful as the picture previously, but it's quite clearly a visualization. It's quite clearly the fishbone diagram, which again I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and shows how you can use a visual to really engage and draw people into whether it's a workshop or a meeting or just a brainstorming session. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question as well. So I mentioned earlier, Agile is a highly visual methodology. Don't know, Olina, if you just want to have a quick run through of those, or whether we crack on.
Well, I can just mention that as Agile practitioners, you're starting from a strong base, right? You're using many visual tools and aids already, like the Kanban, the Canvas, the Radar, mind maps, etc. And these can as easily be standardized for efficiency or enhanced for individual teams and context. But let's crack on to what do you say? Should we do a quick drawing exercise in the middle of everything? Right? Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
And how about using you as a guinea pig again? That's kind of funny. Let's do that. Okay, so we're going to ask all of you to do some squiggles. So either you pick a pen and paper, or you use your iPad, or you go to that site again. All right. So I want you all to just start doing squiggles all over that paper. Take a minute to just do random squiggles, like totally random.
Like this?
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. You've been practicing. Awesome.
Quite satisfying, actually.
Can imagine.
Is that enough squiggles, or?
No, I want them all over the paper. Actually, you do a few more. You don't have to be so advanced. That's awesome. Yeah. Fantastic. You're happy with that?
Depends what you're going to ask me to do next.
Okay. So what I want you to do now is just to have a little fun with them, right? So maybe add a pair of eyes. Let's turn them into animals. So one of birds. Add a beacon, a couple of eyes, some legs, maybe a tail. There you go. Amazing. It's a fine bird right there. Cool.
Sure about that one.
And again, if all of you other guys are drawing as well, please put a print screen in the chat or something. We'd love to see a result from this. That's a beautiful bird. Fantastic.
It's my dog, actually. It's not a bird.
Oh, right.
Yeah. There you go. It does actually look a bit like that.
Yeah.
There you go. Emery.
Oh, beautiful. So, well, thank you, Ben. That was amazing. So my point from this exercise is to show you that the mind is an incredible flexible instrument. Okay, so no matter what you do, how you draw, your mind and your brain will naturally find the patterns and assign meaning to them. So no matter how they look, it doesn't have to be beautiful, right? Because the mind fills the rest in. So that is the point of that exercise. Okay, we're back to the presentation.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about the visual agile coach, the role profile. So we have looked at the science that gives visual practices power. So let's have a look at how we can harness that in the power, that power in the agile domain. And a while ago, as a creative visual thinker and learner and an agile coach, I thought, what if I combine visual practices with agile ways of working? And we created the Visual Agile Coach to help people in organizations to leverage this power of visuals to improve communication, engagement, and delivering of value. And Ben, do you want to tell them how we did this?
Yeah, sure. So obviously there's all sorts of books and manuals that will tell you what an agile coach is. But we thought we'd kind of try and create our agile coach or visual agile coach role profile differently. So we went on to LinkedIn. We do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and found 25, 30 different of the most current agile coach role profiles. So that's from the summer of 2022. It's pretty recent, up to date, and a good cross section. And we went through and we keyword searched, and we looked for the most sought after and desired agile coach skills. We looked for the most frequent and hardwired roles and responsibilities. And therefore, we created the Agile Coach role profile. And then to make it the visual Agile Coach role profile, we started to create a toolkit that kind of empowers and enables an Agile Coach to add visuals, the power of visuals to their skill set, to their toolkit, and become a visual Agile coach. So you can see here that in no particular order, leadership, agile growth mindset, transformation, and including that could be strategy, organizational change, analytics and metrics. That's important to the agile coach. Mastery of agile tools, or whether that's ceremonies or meetings or workshops or some of the kind of toolkit items that you'll see. Teaching, mentoring, coaching. They'll sound the same, but they're all slightly different. You may teach, you may mentor, and you may coach, and they all require different skill sets and the different components necessary and core components of an agile coach. Stakeholder management, whether that's with your teams or wider afield, and certainly linking into transformation. Diversity in your team, how to make sure you get the best out of your team, and the diverse characters and backgrounds and interests that may be there. And then, of course, linking into teamwork and leading a team as itself. So these were, for us, what we felt were key. And then, as I said, it's all very well and good having a role profile, and it's all very well and good calling it a visual agile coach, but you need to give them the tools to be able to practice and utilize them. And again, as we've mentioned before, as agile practitioners, you're already familiar with Kanban boards, canvases, burn down charts, radars, mind maps, retro boards, etc. And you perhaps didn't appreciate that you're already using the power of visuals. So it's not a huge step forward that you need to make. So just in the interest of time, we're going to run through some that will be familiar to you, some that we've created, and talk about that a little bit further. So guys will all be interested, familiar with the business model canvas. So here's the standard business model canvas, but what you can see is we've used Drawify to start to include some visuals which make it stand out from the page and engage. And as you fill in who the key partners or the value propositions or the customer relationships within your business model, you can use combined text, words, and visuals to bring that to life. So that's one example. Story mapping, and Olina talked earlier about the powers of processes. Again, mapping the end-to-end journey, the customer or user story map. You can use text, or you can use visuals to bring that to life as well. Whether that's through the stickies or taking over a whole wall, or whether it's through Miro, that enhances, we believe, the story map. Here we have actually a process. This is the process for running a lean coffee. So you can see here that Olina has used visuals to explain the process end to end for running a lean coffee meeting. So create a simple Kanban, brainstorm the topics, pitch the topics, prioritize, discuss, and write the summary, or maybe even summarize that within a sketch note. So as an example of a process there. Again, here's an example of a model. So Tuckman's team phases of team development, and Olina's used visuals here to illustrate and explain in a quick and simple way. Now, actually, we've taken this Tuckman phases of team development and used that as we were creating the team working element of the Agile Coach toolkit. And here's just some examples of those. So we believe or think that if you're in the forming stage, having a team canvas. So you remember the canvas from before? Well, this is a team canvas. And we think, again, you may want headings such as people and roles, goals, values, purpose, strengths and assets. And you can see we've used visuals, again, on the Drawify platform. And actually, this is also now available on the Mirrorverse, if you're familiar with that. And you can use the stickies to help you populate this, or again, use visuals to populate the content. And then another is a tool or a template for the storming phase of Tuckman's phases of team development. We've called this the team bounce back, and what we've suggested here is that you collect any issues and problems, disagreements or challenges, whether it's at the team level or team to team, or if it's individual to individual, and you use the 5 whys or some other diagnostic or some other form of communication that allows you to discuss the problem and then check in and then figure out how the 5 hows or another sort of collaborative action planning to help you come away from your diagnostic of your problem or your challenge, and then work together to create the solution. And again, I think we'll have this. It's certainly on Drawify, but it'll certainly be on Mirrorverse. And just to explain here, we've used Drawify to take Olina's assets, pictures, to populate the template, the process, and then we can also put that on Mirrorverse as well. Okay, Olina, to save my voice, do you want to just run through a few other examples of
Yeah, of course. All right. So when it comes to transformation, these are 2 really useful templates. Maybe you've seen them before. The strategy tree is a quite common one. You can use to formulate a business, your product maybe, or service by using this metaphor of a tree and connect it to your capabilities, your actions, and your outcomes. And the other one is the growth plan, and that template helps you identify and align the stages in your growth strategy, what you should measure and how you could get from stage to stage. Yep, and the last one is a powerful example, a favorite of mine. I love this one. This really says quite a lot. So this picture is from Rouge Pharmaceuticals, and they made a visual representation of their corporate strategy, which looked like this. And prior to having a visual representation, less than 40% of employees understood the company's vision and strategy. And after seeing this picture, 96% of everyone understood it. And even 84% of everyone understood how their daily work aligned with that vision. So that's a really powerful example for how a visual can help you in your communication. Yes.
So I think we were going to do another drawing exercise, but I'm just conscious of the time. So maybe we just cover visualizing a process.
Yes, exactly. Let me just
this one.
Yes, because I think that we'll run out of time. But this is basically what we wanted to mention when it comes to visual examples. And one of the most useful you can do is visualizing processes. So you can do this either by your own, or it's really an effective way to an exercise to do in a team, right? Because the best result is if you do this with several people. And it's basically all about creating nodes and links. So the nodes are the people or the things really, and the links are the arrows that connects the activities to each other. And if you can make a node and a link, you can create a system model, which is really a powerful thing, a powerful tool to use in the Agile domain, visualizing processes. And I just want to give a tip that if you want to practice this, use Post-its. So use Post-its and sketch and draft your notes and put them in order, and then you can shift and you can elaborate and you can collaborate in a team. You know, if you set out and everyone gets to do their nods, then you combine them, and that way you create a really good visual, basically, of a process. And just some general information about this kind of visual that I want to give you is to bear in mind that don't make it too complex. The ideal is to have about 5 to 13 notes on a visual process. Otherwise, it gets too cluttered and too complex. So keep in mind 5 to 13 is the best number for creating it. So I think that was it. Now we've done it. So we have looked at the history of visual practices. We have discussed what we mean by visual practices. We have looked at the science, and we have given you a few concrete templates and methods and example to use in your workspace. So that was it from us.
Thank you very much, Olina and Ben, for taking us on this journey. I think that now everyone would like to have a discussion with you. So let us stop the recording and move on to the discussion.